In the early 60s, a group of young black kids from the streets of Detroit burst onto the music scene. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. They performed through 3 restless decades. Well, the restless decades of the 60s anyway, and the 70s and the 80s. And Smokey joins us this morning. It's a delight.
My pleasure,
Nice to
Eileen.
meet you, Smokey. Do you know it never happens, or rarely happens, that the whole building goes crazy when they hear that we're having a guest on this show? And yesterday, people kept sticking their heads into the Good Day office saying, is he really going to be here live?
Oh, boy.
Do you know you create that kind of a stir?
It's nice to hear.
It's true. But
All
do you
right.
know, does that always precede you?
Well, I don't know. What.
Do you care? Do you
Yeah, I care. That's very nice to know. That makes me very happy.
I get a sense, though, that you've kind of stayed pretty centered and pretty humble through all of this glory that's been kind of showered on you. Have you?
Well, I'm just, you know, I feel like I'm just very blessed. You know, I'm a guy who goes around and I do a job that I love, you know. And so very few people in life ever get a chance to do that. And also, I feel like I'm just a human being. You know, we all make each other happen. And I'm no different than the next guy. It's just my job is entertainment. You know, I go around, but if it wasn't for the truck driver coming to see me or his kids having my albums or something like that, where would I be?
Yeah, that's a good thing to always remember,
sure,
isn't it?
Of course.
Was it always fun? There were times
Yeah.
when it might not have been such fun.
Well, I think that probably the last couple of years with the Miracles, for me, the only part of it that was fun was the fact that I was with the Miracles, who are my brothers, really, and I've known them since early childhood, and I love them very much, and so I enjoyed the fact that I was with them, and when we were actually on stage performing, I enjoyed that. But all the other stuff, the traveling, the hotels, the restaurants, the food, and all that, was driving me crazy, so I was very unhappy at that point.
There was a time you wanted out, and then you guys turn around and have a mega hit,
That's
and you
right.
can't get out.
No question about it. I was just about, in fact, I had told them, my oldest son was born in 1968, and I told the guys that I was going to, you know, quit about a year after that, because 90% of the time we were gone. And so shortly before I got ready to quit that time, The Tears of a Clown was released, and it was like mega hit all over the world. So that kept me there for a little longer so that everybody could get financially in a little better shape before I did leave.
You know, it's pretty amazing that you write very openly in this book about 18 months of your life that just took you from a real success to a junkie, a druggie.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a tough go there.
Yeah, it was incredible. You see, and the reason that one of the main reasons I went on and wrote the book, incidentally, I wrote it with a wonderful writer, guy David Ritz, and one of the reasons I went on and wrote the book was because of that. Because here's a guy like me who has everything to live for, and my life is going great, and I'm doing a lot of things that I love doing. And I get to this point in my life, I've never abused drugs in my life, and I get to this point in my life whereas a lot of things, which retrospectively looking back on, I can see why I might have done this, because my dad died and I was getting ready to leave a marriage that I had been in for 27 years, and these things were happening. But I wasn't looking at them at that point and thinking, well, this is why I'm doing this. I thought I was having fun. Started out, I'm having fun. This is what everybody's doing. That's the danger of cocaine, because it's so accepted. It's like the elite drug. It's like the in thing. You know, it's everywhere. Senators, doctors, lawyers, everybody's doing this thing. So it's very dangerous because everybody thinks, hey, this is the cool thing to do. And so it started out for me, and I thought I was having fun until it just devastated me.
Until it owned you.
Yeah, no
and
question
it did
about
own
it.
you, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
What made you get straight?
The Lord. Yeah.
How'd you find the Lord, though? I mean,
Well,
it's hard
you
to
know,
find the Lord when you're high on coke.
Well, basically, I've always been into God, you know, and I kind of like backslid or separated myself from Christ, and I divorced myself from everyone and everything. And there's a guy, his name is Leon Kennedy. He's an actor, and he's like my real brother, and we're very, very tight. And so he came by my house one night, and he said, look, I opened the door, he said, I can't find you. You don't answer my calls. I wasn't answering anybody's calls. I was just sitting there. I would just be there. And he said, you don't answer my calls. I can't find you. I know something's wrong. So he came in, and he's a very spiritual guy, and he came in, he prayed for me. That was like 1:30 in the morning. He prayed for me till about 6 o'clock in the morning. And he said, I'm going to stay here tonight I'm going to take you to a prayer service tomorrow, which he did. And the woman who is now my minister, her name is Jean Perez. When I went there, I had been going through a lot of physical changes with my body and a lot of emotional and psychological changes, hallucinations, all kinds of things, you know. And I hadn't told anyone in the world what was happening to me, physically or mentally. I had told no one because I was embarrassed and I was afraid. So when I go there, she's praying for different people, and I go up there and she tells me, she says, look, she says, you've been on my prayer list for a year, which was when I really got off into it heavily. And so the Lord has sent you here tonight because he's going to save you from yourself, because you can do a lot to tell people and to help people on this thing. So he's going to save you from yourself. And she proceeded to tell me everything that was happening with me, physically, mentally, everything.
She told you, huh?
She told me. And so I knew that it was a message from God. And she prayed for me right then and there. Since that moment, I have not had one single solitary desire for. I never went to rehab or the hospital or psychotherapy or any of that. And I'm cool.
Let's back up, because one of the most important and, well, heartwarming parts of your book is your love for your mother, who you lost when you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
She really did introduce you to music, didn't she?
Well, yeah, I guess she did, because music was always playing in my house. My mom and my sisters both, they were always playing music. I mean, the first person I can remember being influenced by in my life who was always playing at my house was Sarah Vaughn.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing, wonderful music to start with. Aretha Franklin was a neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, Stevie Wonder lived in Detroit. I mean, we're talking about a whole neighborhood of great talent. Did you know when you were a kid that it was all there?
No, I knew that there was a lot of talent in our neighborhood, though, because when we were growing up, see, in Detroit, in our neighborhood, you were either in a group or some type of a musical organization or a gang, or some people were in both, you know what I'm saying? And we you know, the ones who came out of that, we're the blessed ones, we're the fortunate ones, because there are a lot of talented kids there. But I feel that way about every large city in the world, really. Not only in America, but in the world, because in traveling around the world, I see talented people and talented young people and kids and stuff like that everywhere. But the difference in Detroit was that we had Berry Gordy, you see? And he is this guy with this dream, and he makes it come true for himself and for many other people.
Talk about some of the greats that were there. I mean, you write about Diana Ross, and you say that the prima donna image doesn't apply, and that, in fact, she didn't even think she really had the talent, did she?
No, she didn't. You know, I think that she's one of... When I first met Diana, she was probably about 11 or so, and she lived right down the street from me. They moved in, and she was a person who always was singing, but did not think that she could sing. And when my group and I were rehearsing, she'd be at my house, and she was very close to one of my nieces. And she'd be there, and she would always be listening, sitting on the steps or in the basement or what have you, you know. And occasionally you could hear her singing. And she had this unique little voice that I knew inside me. If, in fact, this girl's voice ever catches on, she's going to be a dynamo.
Girl, Temptations, get ready, Temptations. My Guy, Shop Around. You can go on and on. The list is unbelievable. When did you know you were a writer as well as a performer?
Well, I always did try to write songs, Eileen. I was one of those kids that had this school notebook, and I always tried to write songs. When I happened to meet Berry Gordy by chance at an audition that I'd gone to for Jackie Wilson's people, Jackie Wilson was one of my idols, and I had all of his records. And I went to audition with the Miracles for Jackie Wilson's people, his musical people, and his manager. And Berry was writing songs at that time, and this was way before he started Motown. And he happened to be there that day to turn in some songs. And so we sang all songs that I'd written. And so the people were not impressed with that. But however, Berry was, and he came outside, and as a songwriter, he said, well, who wrote those songs? And I said, well, I did. And he introduced himself to me, and when he said his name was Berry Gordy, I couldn't believe it because he looked like a little kid. You know? So, but I knew who he was because to me, not only the singers and the performers were celebrities, the songwriters were celebrities. I always, all my life, have watched to see who wrote the songs. So when he said he was Berry Gordy, I had all of Jackie Wilson's records, and he had written all the hits for Jackie Wilson.
Wow.
So I was flabbergasted that he was interested.
The audience won't like me if I don't at least address the fact that this segment we just did on alternative methods of having a baby, I mean, you used different ways to have children,
I've lived it. It's very close to my heart, yes. Because my oldest son is a surrogate baby, and back in the days when he was conceived, this was unheard of.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was sort of like experimental, And so we went through a lot of different changes about that. It had to be secret and so on down the line, you know. But it makes me very happy that nowadays it's a legal process, and that people who can't have kids, because my wife and I had suffered about 6 miscarriages or so before this idea from this doctor came up to do this. And so it's very good for people who can't have children. You know, a lot of people who can take children for granted, but they are wonderful. And then he built a special brace for my wife's uterus. In order for my daughter to be carried by my wife, you know. So it's
you know, you write about so much in this book, and I